Good morning. We start the second session of this course of English, the course of English language, which is this course is a technical course because it is related to the field of psychology. In other words, we will deal with the field of psychology in English language. This is the main purpose of this course. And during the first session, we tried to show the academic curriculum of the first and the second semesters, and we mentioned the definition of psychology and various approaches. Some of them are, I classified them as classical approaches. Then I classified others as modern approaches, and then I classified critical psychology as a postmodern approach. Then I referred by a question mark to Islamic psychology, because there is a big debate about the academic status of this, which is named as a field, and by referring to Islamic psychology. And at the end, I referred to everyday life, the psychological topics of everyday life, or Algerian everyday life, more precisely. And this is broadly speaking the various approaches and topics which are referring to the content of the academic curriculum of this course in English language. And then I refer to the academic bibliography, and in this bibliography we can find various books and articles and encyclopedias and dictionaries in the field, the big field of psychology. And inside these, inside each of the books and articles and encyclopedias mentioned, we can find other academic references. And today, or in this session, I will share with you, we will refer to the first text, and that I refer to it as text number 0, because it's the first. And because we will start by this text, and then we will deal with various approaches. And I will share now with you this text, and we will try to deal with and to discuss. And first of all, I took into consideration the definition of psychology by referring to this text that I brought from Van den Bos, who edited the APA Dictionary of Clinical Psychology, the second edition. And this dictionary appeared in American Psychological Association and in Washington, D.C. And I took this, the part of this text from the page 860. And this is the definition of psychology. Of course, this definition, I brought this definition from this dictionary, but at the same time, we will discuss this definition, and we will discuss more precisely, we will discuss in critical critical way these texts because each idea we start by the the perspective that, or the horizon that each idea should be discussed and thought and interpreted and reinterpreted and in various ways, taking into account various and multiple other ideas and academic thoughts. And this is the main part which can develop or enhance a cognitive competency or ability to think in a critical way. And this is the main goal of this course, but not only, because all courses should be thought in this way. I mean, in a critical way to enhance the critical competency within the various interaction between the learner and the teacher who is supervising this or that course. And first of all, the definition of psychology is starting by this idea: psychology, the study of the mind and behavior. The study of the mind and behavior. And here, of course, when we refer to the mind, we refer to cognitive processes, various cognitive processes like to memorize, to percept, to express a cognitive perception, and to memorize, to interpret, and to think, and to represent ideas and thoughts, etc. And this is a big part of which is referring to the one big part of the definition of psychology, because psychology is focusing on the activity of the mind, or the activity of cognition, and because we are thinking and we have a brain, and at the same time we have a mind, and we at some point we cannot separate between the brain and the mind. And from this outlook, we can say that psychology is very interested by the activity of the mind. And here we can refer to various approaches that are focusing on the activity of the mind. And here we can refer, for example, to the theory of Piaget, and also which is named cognitive constructivism, and we can also refer to the approach of Lev Vygotsky, which is this approach could be named social constructivism. And there is a difference between cognitive constructivism and social constructivism, because Piaget is both Piaget and Vygotsky are referring to the activity of the mind, and they were interested by various processes of the cognition. But at the same time, we can notice that there is a difference between cognitive constructivism and social constructivism, because cognitive constructivism is represented by Jean Piaget, is focusing on the interaction between the subject and the object, and by the activity which is shown by the subject toward the object. And here the subject is is experiencing an action by the process of assimilation. At the same time, the object is showing an action by the process of accommodation, and there is continual interaction between assimilation and accommodation. And this continual interaction between the subject and the object is experiencing development, is experiencing more precisely cognitive development. And this is the main interest of Piaget when we refer to his study of the mind. And at the same time, Piaget did not take into account various social and cultural influence when he was studying the interaction between the subject and the object. The reason why we named the reason why Piaget's approach was named cognitive constructivism, because there is a construction of various ideas and the representation, and there is development, there is psychological development from the cognitive view, from the cognitive horizon, but without taking into account the various external influence, referring mainly to the cultural and social influences. Piaget was interested mainly to Piaget was interested mainly by the external influence of the object toward the subject, and he at some point he marginalized the influence of the culture and the society and the others. I mean, other human beings, which are, from his view, referring to Piaget, which are not influencing a lot the interaction between the subject and the object. On the other hand, when we refer to Vygotsky's approach, he is not dismissing the importance of the interaction between the subject and the object, but at the same time, he is referring mainly to the importance of the influence of the other. The other is the adult who is influencing the learner to be more efficient and to reach a better level of the psychological development. And from this perspective, Vygotsky is referring to the importance of culture, to the importance of the society, to the importance of the others, to influence the learner to reach a better psychological cognitive development. And from this perspective, we can see the main difference between cognitive constructivism, which is mainly represented by Piaget, and social constructivism, which is mainly represented by Vygotsky. And also from this perspective, we can make a broad definition about the study of about the content of the study of this field named psychology, and we can redefine psychology by saying that Psychology is studying the activity of the mind, and not only the mind as a structure, but the mind also as a process, and also the psychology is studying the behavior, and the behavior is what is appearing from various external activities of somebody, of the subject. And from this perspective, we can refer to the behavior. The behavior, that's all what is external as an action, referring to the verbal behavior, referring to the physical behavior, referring to moving from this place to that place, and etc. And from this perspective, of course, we are referring, when we refer to the behavior, we are referring mainly to one of the main approaches in psychology that are that is interested by the behavior. And here we are referring, we refer to behaviorism, because this approach is mainly focusing on external behavior, but not only, because in behaviorism we are referring to the overt behavior and to the covert behavior. The overt behavior is what can we see from the external, from the external perception. I mean, as I represent the other, compared to the subject who is expressing a behavior, this or that behavior, this or that verbal behavior, this or that physical behavior, etc. Here, the subject is expressing an overt behavior. And the overt behavior is the external part of the behavior, but at the same time, behaviorism does not dismiss the importance of the overt behavior, referring to, for example, to monologue, the activity of the monologue. In other words, when we speak to the other, we are expressing external behavior or an overt behavior. But when we speak to ourselves, we are referring to an overt behavior. And this is an internal activity, an internal behavior, because I am speaking to myself, and to speak to the other is a behavior because it is an activity, and to speak to ourselves is also a behavior because I am speaking to myself. I'm expressing a discourse, a speech, which is internal. I am aware about the operation of this behavior, even that the other cannot perceive, cannot be aware about my internal speech, but I am aware about this internal speech. And from this perspective, we can say there is an overt behavior, which is external, and there is an covert behavior, which is internal, but it is still a behavior. And of course, the internal behavior can be noticed by referring to the activity of the brain, and also when we do an interview with the subject, with the case study. During the case study, we can write or download the internal behavior, which becomes external behavior, but at the origin it is an internal behavior or an covert behavior that the subject transforms to an overt behavior or external behavior during an interview with a psychologist. And this is also the explanation of this part of what is studied in the field of psychology. We can also refer to another part that is studied in psychology, referring to emotions. And the emotions are a part of what we are a part of what we can feel, what we can feel, and this is a kind of what we can feel by our emotions. And here we refer mainly to one approach or some approaches which are interested by studying emotions, referring mainly, when we refer mainly to classical approaches, we point out psychoanalysis, التحليل النفسي, and psychoanalysis is one of the main approach which started to deal with emotions, referring mainly to love and hate, and these two emotions are the main emotions which are referring to the main interest of the approach that he named psychoanalysis. And referring to psychoanalysis here, psychoanalysis was interested by emotions, referring mainly to love and hate, and from the psychoanalytic perspective, these emotions raised during the historical family interaction between the child and his father and his mother and his brother and sisters, and from these various interactions, the unconscious, one of the main parts of the emotional life during our from when we born to our adult period. We are from the psychoanalytical perspective, we are continually dealing with love and hate, and from this outlook our personality is built, and also from this horizon psychoanalysis is focusing on emotions, on love and hate, and because these are the main emotions which push the subject to be happy or to be unhappy, and from this perspective, psychoanalysis focused on emotions, because from this approach, emotions are very important during the psychological life of the subject. We can also say that there is a social psychological concern which are part of what is studied in psychology, and because we are interacting with others, and we are influencing others, and others are influencing us, and from this inter-influence we are shaping by this interaction, and we are we shape others, and the others are shaping us from the social psychological perspective. And at the end we can say that psychology is studying the structure and the process of the mind, and it is also studying various behaviors, the external behavior and the internal behavior, the overt behavior and the covert behavior. Psychology is also studying emotions like or mainly love and hate, and at the end we can say also that psychology is also studying the social psychological life of the subject, because we are continually influencing others, and others are influencing us. And from this outlook we can say that there are 4 components which are representing the definition of psychology. Psychology is studying the mind, the behavior, emotions, and the social psychological life. And we can end by this point, and we'll continue in the third session. And thank you.